Hey guys, so I wanted to start this video off with a little story. So there's this restaurant that I go to often, a couple times a week usually, me and a brother of mine and some friends. And I've been going there for, a couple of years, and lately, I would say within the past 6 months or so, especially the last 3 months, there was this girl that works at the restaurant, younger girl. I'm a little bit older, as I've said before in other videos. This girl's younger. She's 19 years old, but she was a hostess at the restaurant, and I never really paid much attention to her, never really even noticed her, to be honest, until recently. So one day we go to the restaurant, and there's another girl that works there, and she was the server in the area we were in. So I get seated waiting for a brother of mine and some friends to come, and I noticed this girl comes over and is talking to the girl that was supposed to be our server. Didn't think much of it, waiting for everyone, waiting for the waitress to come over so I can get a drink, and so I'm not sitting there not having anything to drink, so I hear someone come over and say hello. I look up, and it's the hostess girl, and I'm like, oh, like aren't you the hostess? And she's like, oh, well, I'm gonna be your server today. And I was like, oh, okay, that's awesome, okay, whatever. And she asked me what I wanted. I told her I wanted, I got my drink, and she walked away, brought my drink, and then I told her I was waiting for other people. She said okay. She left. I was thinking to myself, well, that was kind of weird, because I saw her talking to the girl. She went up and started talking to the girl, and then the girl let her be the waitress. So didn't think much of it. My brother came, some friends came, and the night went good. Didn't think much of it. We left and then continued going, or doing our normal routine a couple times a week, usually going there. And I started noticing one night I was there. I still didn't really pay much attention to this girl. I'd just see her periodically, look at her and just, carry on with what I was doing. Didn't really acknowledge her. One night I'm there with my friend. This is, I would say, about a month later. I'm there with one of my friends. It's pretty late, and I see this girl walking around in the restaurant. She goes into, they have a side room where they have like a party area where you can rent out space and have little parties in there. And so she goes into that room, and I can see her. It looked like, I wasn't sure what she was doing, but it looked like she was like looking at herself on the phone and then looking at a little mirror or whatever. So I was like, whatever. I didn't really pay much attention to it, because she was sitting kind of across from me, and I'm sitting talking to my friend. But I didn't pay much attention to it. So I'm sitting there with my friend, and some time went by, like 30 minutes, and I see this girl come out of the side room, and she's walking towards me. And as she's walking towards me, I see her look at me, and we make eye contact, and then she smiles at me and looks down at the ground, and then looks back up and smiles again as she's walking by. But as she was doing it, she moved her hair. And me being a kind of older guy, I've been with a good amount of women, dated women, have kids with multiple different women. So I'm kind of experienced with women, and I instantly saw that as attraction. That's what women do, when they're attracted. So I was like, whatever. Not gonna think too much into it. I'm not gonna like make a move on this girl. Like, I'm just gonna, just acknowledge it a little bit and then just carry on with what I'm doing. So then, we left, and I was like, whatever. I kind of told my friend, we were laughing about it. I thought it was funny. Took the little ego boost, whatever. Anyways, though, so we leave, and the next time we go, a couple days later, we're there, and we're eating, and I see the girl again. She's walking around, and so this time I happen to look over by the kitchen, and I see this girl walking, and she looks at me, and she squints her eyes at me, and I just kind of look at her like I kind of just nod my head. Then she waves to me, and I'm like, oh, and then I say hello to her, and then I see her smiling, going to the back, and I was like, okay, whatever. So carry on with my night. And then, then I can see her, now it's starting to, she comes out later, and then I can see as she's walking by, she's looking at me out of the corner of her eye. And so I kind of glance at her and nod my head and look away, carry on with what I'm doing, whatever. So then I leave. Then I go again the next time, and then I can see this girl. I'm starting to notice that she keeps looking. So I'm just like, okay, I can see this girl's interest is growing and growing, which, normally happens with people when they're attracted or interested in some way. And so that starts happening, and then I can see this girl is starting to become somewhat interested. So then I have a friend come with me, and this is the kind of guy who he tries to talk to every woman. I'm sure you guys all have been there and kind of know this type of person. Tries to talk to every woman, and just doesn't care. Overdoes it sometimes. Comes off looking, kind of stupid sometimes, and some people say creepy, but whatever. I mean, he's young. He's a little bit younger than me, and if that's his own choice, whatever he wants to do. That's his personality. But anyways, though, he's there, and he starts trying to talk to this girl, and she's talking with us, and she's used to saying hi to me now. So he's trying to. I mentioned something to him about her, so now he's there with me, and he's trying to talk to this girl and trying to ask personal questions, and I could tell he's trying to flirt with her. So she's responding. Then I could tell. I started noticing that she was getting kind of annoyed, but trying to be polite still. Not trying to be rude, trying to answer him still, but trying to get away and stay away from him, making progressing moves at her. Trying to make it lead to something more. And so, we leave, whatever. I see her the next time, and so let me rewind. So when she was there with us, and he was talking to her, she was actually coming up and talking. We were all talking, as a group, and that was one of the times when I hadn't really had much conversation with this girl. A couple words here and there, and saying hello and stuff. But that was the night where we really started talking, having a little conversation and having interactions, personal interactions. And so, we leave, and then that night forward, now every time I see her, she starts talking to me. She starts coming up and talking little by little. Then she comes up to me, one of the times, and she starts saying stuff about my friend. And, saying how she was getting annoyed with him, and he was creeping her out, which honestly, I don't see what he was doing that was creeping her out. He was just making conversation. Maybe she didn't find him physically attractive. But I don't see why she shouldn't have been saying he was creeping her out, because I didn't see that. He was trying to talk to her, but she was still responding too. She didn't have to be talking and coming over there. But anyways, though, so, she's still trying to talk to me. So now this girl starts saying, she didn't want him talking to her. She doesn't like him. And then she starts making comments to me saying, I don't care if you talk to me. You're a cool guy. I like talking to you. I really like it when you're here. And then she starts making comments about saying how cute I am, and just kind of going over the top a little bit. And to me, it came off as a little creepy. She's sitting here calling him creepy. Now she's doing the kind of creepy stuff. But whatever. I was like, whatever. I'll just take it as it is and laugh it off. And I was like, whatever. That's just the way he is. He does it sometimes. I'll tell him to back off a little bit. Anyways, we leave, and next time we go, the same thing. She starts talking again, opening up more, and every time I'm talking to her now, she's opening up more and more and more, and making more kind of comments, and trying to flirt more and more. And then so we leave again. Next time we go there, we're talking again, and the friend comes up again, the creepy friend. So we're talking about him, and I don't know if she mentioned before when we were all talking that night, she accidentally mentioned another job that she works at somewhere else. And from what it sounds like to me, when this next time when I was talking to her, I think he could have possibly went to her work, trying to talk to her. I'm not sure. She never said exactly, but that's the way it was sounding to me. And if so, he probably shouldn't have done that. But I don't know for sure if he did that, so I don't want to say. But it kind of sounds that way. But she shouldn't have told him, the other job she has and everything. All she probably wasn't thinking about. But anyways, though, so that happened, and So I was making a joke. I said, oh, I thought maybe he, because I kind of asked her what happened. She wouldn't tell me. She said it doesn't matter, whatever. But that guy's a creep and whatever. I don't like him. I was like, okay, whatever. So and I tried asking her what happened, and then I made the comment. I said, oh, what, he messaged you on social media? Because he has done that before at places. He's found the girl's social medias, like restaurants we went to, because he does this kind of stuff all the time. And he'll message them. Some of them respond. Some block him. Whatever. But so I make this comment to her, and she says, no, he didn't. But then she brings up another guy who goes to that restaurant that did do that with her. And I was joking. I said, and she was saying he was a creep and stuff. She was talking to him and everything until he messaged her on social media. And I was like, well, then why do you even give him your social media? She was like, well, I just didn't, I don't know, I didn't think about it, I just gave it to him. And I was thinking in my head, I was like, well, how does this make him a creep? Like, you literally are talking to him and give him your social media. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I say to her, I'm like, so if he was, I said, you're saying this because he's ugly. I said, if he was a hot guy, you probably wouldn't be saying this. You would think he's like, it's the most flattering thing in the world. And she said, so then she accidentally blurts out, she's like, no, I have a boyfriend. And then she looks at me immediately and puts her head down like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, this girl last week was just telling me how cute I am and how much she likes to see me there, and she and just making comments over the top like that. I'm thinking like, what is wrong with this girl? Like, the nerve of her. But I'm like, whatever. So now I'm like, does this girl really have a boyfriend, or is she just saying that? Like, now I'm kind of like, whatever, maybe I shouldn't be talking to this girl. I myself don't think, if a girl has a boyfriend, you shouldn't be talking to other guys, especially saying inappropriate stuff like that. Because if that is the case, to me, that's cheating. Like, you shouldn't be doing that. That girl, if that's the case, she's not happy in this relationship. But back to the story. So, time goes on, go in there the next time and the next time. Same thing, she starts talking more and more and more, and coming up to me, starts interacting, starts doing, asking really personal questions, starts telling me about her family and personal stuff about her. Now she's starting to implement, when she comes up, it's like touching my arm and touching me and stuff. But now I'm kind of like backed off. I'm like, whoa, does this girl really have a boyfriend? Like this is, I've got to be careful here. Like that's a major red flag. Like, so there's other waitresses who work at this restaurant that we talk to. We're regulars, so we talk to them regularly, and they now are making so we make conversation with them, and some of this conversation, this girl comes up in the conversation because they start telling me this girl is asking if I'm at the restaurant, if I've left yet, when she's back in the kitchen with them. And so they're like joking we're all joking, and then I ask them, I'm like, so does this girl have a boyfriend? And they're like, no, I think she does, but he is out of state, he doesn't live here, it's a long distance relationship. So I'm like, oh, okay, I can kind of see where this girl, maybe she's unhappy, and I can kind of understand why she's doing this, trying to get attention, feeling good. But still, it's wrong, I'm like, no, I don't want to engage in this. This is not okay. But I was like, I got to know for sure if this girl has a boyfriend. I'm starting to hear now she does, and she made that comment, but she's never really clarified it to me. So I'm like, whatever, I'll still kind of talk to her a little bit and feel her out and see what's up. But, so then some more time goes by, and we're talking one day, and then she tells me she's going on a trip for a week to see her boyfriend. She starts telling me about her boyfriend. He's in the army. He enlisted in the army a couple months after they got together, and then moved away, and he's in Georgia, and she's going to visit him for a week, and then she's coming back, and then he's getting deployed to New York, and we live here in Washington State. She's here in Washington State as well. So, that's definitely a long distance relationship. But again, she's telling me about her boyfriend now, and she's going to visit him. And she's literally telling me, when she's coming up to me, telling me about this, at the start of the conversation, she starts saying to me, I'm really going to miss you when I leave. I was really hoping to see you before I go. And hopefully I can see you again before I go, because I'm going to be here for the next couple days before I leave. And I'm literally sitting there, I'm like, what is wrong with this woman? What is wrong with this girl? What is wrong with modern women? I couldn't believe it. But still, we're talking. I'm trying to be polite, and not trying to be rude to her. And because she is a nice girl, cute girl, But we end our conversation, and I leave, and I don't see her again for a week, and then we end up keeping our regular routine. We go back to the restaurant. It's a week later. I end up seeing her. She literally comes up to me and she goes to try to give me a hug, and I'm like, ooh, like back up a little bit. I'm like, this girl's a boyfriend. Like, what is she doing? She just got back from seeing her boyfriend, and but we start talking. Making little flirtatious comments back and forth. Like, she usually initiates, and I'm kind of like a I would say, not a smart ass, but I speak my mind. I'm not afraid to like joke with a woman, and I don't hold back. I say anything, I don't say anything vulgar, but I don't go over the top. But I do joke around and say my opinion, and don't try to like please a woman and be a pleaser. Like, I'd be myself, which what men should be. But just talking normally. And then she says, oh, I'll talk to you later, and goes. She's actually a waitress tonight. She got moved to be a waitress that night. So I was like, oh, that's awesome. She came up and she started telling me about it, along with the comments and stuff. But anyways, we sit down, we're doing whatever, and then she ends up like kind of creeping, like coming up, but it was kind of like weird and awkward, a little bit later. And she comes up and she's like, oh, hey, blah, blah, talking. She's like, oh, my boyfriend, he's right over there. And she was like looking, like, and then she like leaves and goes away. And I was like, that was a really weird interaction. But yeah, so that was the last time I seen her. And I just wanted to make this video. And I just don't understand modern women. Like I mean, that to me, that situation is not okay. And I know there's a lot of other guys I've heard stories about and seen things and watched things on YouTube, and have friends that have told me stories, and they've had friends of friends that have have stories. And I just don't know. I mean, I don't know if there's any hope for modern women. I mean, I would like to think so. I always tell people, be positive, and there are women out there, and you just don't, you gotta identify the red flags and be very careful who you're with and who you're talking to and who you're dating. But I mean, I literally am at a loss for words. Like, I don't, to me, that's cheating. Like, I don't see how that's okay. I want to, she's a nice girl, but I've got to make the decision, and I think I'm going to tell her that I can't really talk to her anymore because she's already crossed the line, and she has a boyfriend, and I'm not comfortable anymore, talking to her kind of in that manner, in that way, if she has a boyfriend. I have to tell her the truth. If she's not happy, she needs to say so. I can understand in a long distance relationship that's, that can get lonely and make you insecure, but you still shouldn't be talking to other guys and making comments like that and taking the attention and giving the attention and thinking it's like cute to be in some little side little thing like that and getting attention. That, to me, that's not okay. But anyways, though, if you guys have anything to say, any comments, any questions, feel free to leave them. And if you have any situations like that, feel free to let me know. And I'll see you guys in the next video.